Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Stephen A. Smith says he has no choice but to consider a run for president in 2028. He badly wants to run for president. And this is kind of giving me Trump 2016 vibes where he was teasing a run, but no one actually believed him. And honestly, I think Stephen A. Smith is trying to pull a Trump, but instead of 2016, in 2028. Now, I'm not saying Trump is his idol because he's obviously not. Trump is his critic. But if this were to be the case, in a hypothetical matchup, I think he would go up against Vivek Ramaswamy. Because if Stephen A. Smith would win the Democratic nomination, that would basically be equivalent to Vivek Ramaswamy. That's basically the same. I give them the same odds of winning their respective primaries. And if that's the case, then I think Stephen A. Smith will obviously run as an independent, but he would have to depth caucus with the Democratic Party because he has to choose one. Obviously, he won't be a Republican no matter what happens because he's he leans to the left, but he would be an independent caucusing for representing the Democratic Party. And Vivek Ramaswamy is obviously a MAGA type of candidate, would run as a Republican. He's currently running for Ohio governor, so if he wins that Republican primary, that definitely boosts his chances. And I believe he got like 8% in the Iowa caucus back in 2024. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't bad for considering that was his first time running. So Vivek Ramaswamy is an outsider. Both of these candidates, including Stephen A. Smith, also is an outsider. So they both are outsiders. They are non-establishment. One is a MAGA candidate. One is centrist. Stephen A. Smith is a centrist. I think Ramaswamy will attract younger voters, typically, specifically Gen Z. So I believe it would help in states like Florida, maybe the Sun Belt as well. But I don't think Ramaswamy will do that well in the Rust Belt. And I understand he's a Rust Belt candidate, obviously coming from Ohio as his home state. But Stephen A. Smith is from New York. That's his own home state. So you're probably wondering, well, why won't Ramaswamy do that well in the Rust Belt? I just simply think that he's too young and he's not ready for it. Now I know Stephen A. Smith never ran before, but I think he's smart and I think he's an excellent debater. I truly do believe those two things. Stephen A. Smith is smart and he will be a good debater. But before we get started with the map, make sure you guys are subscribed. Click the bell so you don't miss my content as we are approaching 6,000 subscribers. Press the like button, share this video if you're interested. Don't forget we have memberships. You can find the links to that in the description section. So let's begin with some of these states. I do want to get out the way of New Jersey, Texas, and Florida to start off. And New Jersey is no longer a solid blue state. Now you can make the case that it's basically not, it's still a solid blue state because you can say it's basically the same thing as Indiana during the Obama era. It was close for like one election or two, but then it went back solid Republican. Maybe that's the case for New Jersey. I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no is it's a battleground state now because the difference between Indiana from the Obama era and New Jersey now is that New Jersey almost elected a Republican governor in 2021, the off-year special elections that were held with Virginia, which is what got Glenn Youngkin elected in the first place as governor. The Democrat for governor only won by 3 percentage points, and that's how we knew that 2024 was going to be a bad year for New Jersey Democrats. Harris only won it by about 6 percentage points, so I don't think it's another Indiana scenario. In this case, I think it's actually a truly battleground state. And also another factor that can dispute that claim that is that Republicans keep gaining in terms of new voter registration. They keep gaining in terms of new voters till this day. So New Jersey, I think, is shifting towards the right, but it will still be likely for Stephen A. Smith in this case scenario. Now Texas, I think Vivek Ramaswamy will be a good candidate in this state. I think Stephen A. Smith will have a disadvantage in this state of Texas. I think more of these southern states Ramaswamy could do good in, with the exception for Georgia. I'm going to save that for later. I think that's when Stephen A. Smith can perform very well and excel in that state. Florida is a lost cause for any Democrat at this point, no matter if it's the strongest candidate or not. The state has shifted too far to the right. Just like I mentioned earlier, Ramaswamy will perform good among Gen Z voters. He has TikTok and gains a lot of followers on there if you don't know. So he can interact with them. And I think maybe Miami-Dade County would actually shift even further to the right because I believe it already voted for Donald Trump. That was true. So, and now as far as some of these other states go, I think New Hampshire is actually going to shift further to the left. Likely Democrat for Stephen A. Smith against Vivek Ramaswamy in this case scenario. So New Hampshire likely for Smith is because I think this state is shifting towards the left. Among college educated voters specifically, now I know I said Vivek Ramaswamy will do good among some of that youth vote, but I think in this case specifically in New Hampshire, Stephen A. Smith can do pretty well in this state because they are anti-MAGA and they like more of the establishment type of candidates. I know Stephen A. Smith is not an establishment at all. He's actually anti-establishment, and I wouldn't say he's a. You can make the case that he's a populist. You can argue that as well, but he's more of a centrist, I would argue. So, therefore, I think Stephen A. Smith can do pretty well in the state of New Hampshire. And you saw Kamala Harris won it by almost 3 percentage points, greater than Hillary Clinton's margin, which goes to show you that maybe it is truly shifting towards the left. And then you have the state of Minnesota. I would say it's lean for Stephen A. Smith. And you're probably wondering, well, why do I have New Hampshire voting to the left of a state like Minnesota if in 2024 it was the exact opposite? It's because he's not going to have someone on his ticket that is the governor of Minnesota. Kamala Harris only won Minnesota by 4 points when she literally had the governor of the state as her VP. Imagine 2028 where Stephen A. Smith won't have Tim Walz on his ticket. So I can actually see a scenario in which New Hampshire voting to the left of Minnesota, which is my reasoning. I honestly think New Hampshire will be bluer than Minnesota going forward in the near future. And then as far as Virginia goes, they are similar to New Hampshire. They like more of the establishment type of candidates. They hate populism, which is why Obama actually did not do that well in both of those states. But Ramaswamy will still fall short in Virginia. Stephen A. Smith would win it by a lean margin of around Kamala Harris's margin of 5 percentage points in this 2028 hypothetical scenario. He's a centrist. I think that's pretty good in this state. Ramaswamy is a MAGA candidate, so I think Stephen A. Smith does have the advantage in the state of Virginia. I almost actually characterize it likely for Stephen A. Smith. But Virginia does not like MAGA candidates. Kamala has overperformed the polls in this state. So I kind of do want to say that Virginia will be likely for Stephen A. Smith in 2028. But the one thing that's holding me back from that is, Vivek Ramaswamy likes to focus heavily on issues like education, which when he was running for president in 2024, he talked about that a lot, how he wants to make the education system better. And one thing that got Glenn Youngkin elected is literally education. So I think maybe that will actually go to Vivek Ramaswamy's benefit at the end of the day, but still won't be enough to give him the victory, obviously. And then as far as the lean states go for both of these candidates, I would say Vivek Ramaswamy will win North Carolina by a margin of 1 to 2 percentage points. I would say like 1.5 on average. I don't think Stephen A. Smith really has it in him to win a state like North Carolina. I mean, even someone as popular as Obama only managed to win it once. Romney actually won it back in 2012. So it's going to be a little bit hard for him to do. Trump won this state 3 times in a row by 3 points in the last election. So I do believe Ramaswamy does have the upper edge in North Carolina, but the margins will obviously shrink and narrow from 2024. It will be closer, but still not enough for Stephen A. Smith to win its 16 electoral votes. And then I think that's all the lean states for only Vivek Ramaswamy. Everything else is going to be tilt: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So as far as Stephen A. Smith tilt states go, I think he will narrowly pull off the state of Georgia and Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, winning the blue wall states. All of them rebuilding the Democratic blue wall that they once had, but Trump broke in 2016. Biden temporarily rebuilt it in 2020, and Trump once again broke it even stronger than ever, even stronger than 2016, and won it by greater margins in 2024. Now let's begin with Georgia. I believe Stephen A. Smith can run up the vote in Atlanta, the metropolitan area, the suburbs specifically, especially among African American voters. I think Stephen A. Smith kind of reminds me of a Raphael Warnock type of candidate. I'm not saying he's going to win by that much, of 2 percentage points back in 2022, the midterms. I know this is general election, not not the Senate, but still, I think Stephen A. Smith is a smart candidate. He's a good debater, and against someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't think he's going to do that well in Georgia. Therefore, I think Stephen A. Smith will win the state with its 16 electoral votes. Also, it's trending towards the left favor of Democrats. Harris didn't do that bad. Trump only won it by a margin of 2 percentage points. Biden flipped it to the Democrats in 2020. They have two, not one, but two Democratic senators. So Georgia is trending towards the left in terms of demographic shifts. I think Stephen A. Smith will defeat Vivek Ramaswamy in this state. Also, they like more neocon type of Republicans. You take a look at their governor as a great example for that. He is non-MAGA. He's not MAGA, obviously, and he won by a great margin. When you have a MAGA candidate running in Georgia, they're not going to do well. So I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe Trump endorsed her to run for 2026 against John Ossoff. That's not going to go well for them, which is why I think he can win re-election if he does not go up against Brian Kemp. So Georgia, they love neocon type of Republicans, which is why Biden actually won it in the 2020 election. Vivek Ramaswamy is a MAGA candidate. They don't like that populism, similar to a state like Arizona, which we'll get to later. So therefore, Stephen A. Smith wins Georgia. And then as far as Wisconsin goes, this Rust Belt state voted to the left of the three in 2024, voted to the left of Michigan and Pennsylvania, which was shocking to a lot of people, including myself, because previously, for a long time, 2020 and previous elections, 2016, and most of the Obama era as well, Wisconsin actually voted to the right of Michigan and Pennsylvania, but the one time it didn't was in 2024 when it actually voted to the left. So I'm not really sure if that's a one-time thing or maybe it's for the future, but only went to Trump by 0.9 when you had other states like Michigan and Pennsylvania vote to Trump by 1.4 and 1.8%. So I think Stephen A. Smith probably has the best chance of winning a state like Wisconsin against Vivek Ramaswamy in 2028. I just think that if they were to debate each other, I think it will be a very close debate because Vivek Ramaswamy also does bring an outsider's perspective, and Stephen A. Smith does the exact same thing. And I understand Stephen A. Smith never ran for president and Vivek did, but I do think that Smith would still have the upper hand in terms of experience. Hard to explain, but I like the way how he talks to people. I think he talks to in a very reasonable manner, and you can make the same case for Vivek Ramaswamy, but I think he's just a little more on the extreme side. I think a democratic centrist, an anti-establishment, a populist type of Democrat. In this case, Stephen A. Smith, even though I would say he's running as a Republican, but still caucusing with the Democratic Party, is perfect for Democrats when it comes to the Rust Belt in 2028. I think he has the edge in Wisconsin. He'll win with its 10 electoral votes. Same thing goes for Michigan and Pennsylvania. And the blue wall states never typically break apart, split apart from each other. If they do that, it'll be very unprecedented. Therefore, if one of them goes in one direction, the rest will follow in that same direction. So Stephen A. Smith, if he's going to win Wisconsin, I have him winning the rest. I mean, it hasn't split in a very long time. I can't really remember when. So Trump won all three, Biden won all three, Trump won all three in 2016, Obama won all three, George W. Bush lost all three. Therefore, I think Stephen A. Smith will completely, temporarily rebuild that blue wall for the Democrats once again. Even though he's an independent, but I think he'll caucus, obviously, with the Democratic Party. I think he's a great candidate. I think he will bring new ideas, similar to modernism, modern ideas to the Democratic Party, a new way of thinking for them. He is not establishment, and I think that will go good for them in some of these Rust Belt states. Now, two more states, Nevada and Arizona, I think Ramaswamy will win both of them. And the main reason why is because Arizona voted for Trump by 5 points in 2024. I find it hard to see that someone like Stephen A. Smith can win Arizona in 2028. You have Nevada. Another reason why I have it hard to see Stephen A. Smith winning is because it's a Republican trendy state. Trump won it by nearly 3 points, or he did win it by 3. And they have a Republican governor. So statewide, this state's really trending towards the right. Trump came within 2 points of Clark County, the Vegas area, which was very impressive. So I think Ramaswamy does have the upper hand in both of those Sunbelt states. So 286 electoral votes for Stephen A. Smith and 251 for Vivek Ramaswamy. This is my map prediction in this hypothetical matchup scenario. So do you think Stephen A. Smith will run in 2028? I do believe so. It's likely at this point. He's kind of giving hints the same way Trump did, like I mentioned earlier, in 2016. So one last final reminder is to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss on my content. Press the like button, share this video. Don't forget we have memberships if you're interested. You can find links in the description section. Thank you everyone for watching.